Hello, happy weekend everybody. I'm meteorologist Ryan Henning and we're going to be doing a little bit of a road trip forecast for this Saturday afternoon, I guess is when you'll be seeing it. We're going from Houston, Texas to Napa, California, so the fourth largest city in the country, largest in Texas, to wine country. It's a little bit of a getaway for anybody who might be taking this trip. It's actually, usually when we travel through the West, we avoid a lot of the major metro areas, especially when we would take this I-40 route through northern Arizona. But we're not. We're going to be taking I-10 through southern Arizona and New Mexico. So we're going to actually hit some pretty large metropolises along the way. We're going to go through Dallas, El Paso. We're actually going to spend a night in Phoenix and then Los Angeles up through the Central Valley of California to Napa. It's going to take us about 3 days to take this trip. It's a 27-hour journey, according to Google Maps. And since we do 8-hour days and we don't do anything under 4, so that last day is going to be 10 hours, or I can do math, 11 hours. We'll just cut it down to 3. But the first 2 days, we're going to stop in the Fort Davis, Texas area. There's a rest stop there that works for our purposes. And then within view of Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, on what would be Monday night for this little forecast adventure. So we'll start with the forecast for Texas, then this part of the southern U.S., and then last but not least, California and Arizona. So let's take a look at the models. First, I want to show you the national radar mosaic. You can see it's fairly active in Texas. There's a few showers down around Houston, so that's just going to be a good primer to see what models are verifying the best right now. So we'll look and see that perhaps the GFS is a little bit too far south with all the rain. Well, then the NAM is maybe a little bit too far to the west. At least for Texas, and we can see it's got plenty of precip over California. There's a big blob of it right now over Northern California, and that's pretty well diagnosed by any interested party. So I think just using a blend of both the GFS and the NAM is going to be just fine for our purposes. If you read the site, read the post previous to this when we forecasted for the city of Houston, we talked about the various troughs impacting everything. We've got one here, one over Western Canada, and this big monster moving into the California coast. So what I also said about Houston is going to obviously hold true Sunday, even as we're leaving Houston. A lot of the moisture that was going to feed through Texas, that's where all the shower activity over that state today is coming from, is going to be cut off because flow is going to redirect to be southwesterly off of this low into this system, whereas before they were disconnected, so this system was pulling in all the moisture from the Gulf towards the low. So when we leave on tomorrow, Sunday, it looks like most of Texas is going to be in pretty good shape. But with the recent rain across the area, I wouldn't be surprised if it's mighty humid. You can see there's a little bit of green getting painted along the coast, and that's a good indication that there might be some leftover moisture along the coast for local residents to contend with. But by that point, we're going to be in West Texas where things are looking pretty good. So this is going to be late afternoon and then into the evening, and it looks like we're going to be doing okay for most of our drive. But you can see there's a little bit of activity as of the very beginnings of a lee trough are going to start to develop around the Oklahoma Panhandle tomorrow evening. So there could be a few isolated showers and thunderstorms around the Big Bend, some of which may drift to our camp spot in the Fort Davis area. And you can see that overnight it looks like all that's going to explode across the region. So yeah, it's going to be one of those nights where we're going to want to pack up quick and move out of there because camping in the rain is the worst, and camping in a thunderstorm is even less enjoyable. So we'll get out of there, and we can take a look at our troughs and get a little update. So this bigger trough that moved into the coast is going to distend or stretch out. So we're going to have a lobe of low pressure here, and another one still just off the coast. So the immediate threat as we depart on Monday morning is going to be shifting away from us in West Texas as the system kind of continues to draw into the Central Plains and still be associated with this strengthening system that's sinking into northern Minnesota. So, and that's kind of what you see. They're connected by a cold front, low pressure over Oklahoma, low pressure over Ontario, and then it's clearing out over West Texas. So by the time we get going, it looks pretty good. I think it's still going to be a little bit more humid than you're probably used to in this part of the world, which is fine because it's going to help keep some of the dust out of the air. They've had some considerable issues with wildfires and just how dry it's been in the area. And I think this is going to be a better day, a better week really for the region. But we're also timing it right because we're going to be driving through and there's not actually any precipitation falling, which is going to be great. We'll get through El Paso just fine, southern New Mexico. It's going to be in good shape as well. But remember, and you can see there's a little bit of a closed isohyps off the California coast. And depending on who you believe, the NAM or the GFS, it's going to start to get a little bit more active as that system starts to work its way towards the coast. And really, it's not whether or not it's going to be active, it's just going to be where it's going to start to be active. One thing that I think both the NAM and the GFS have an issue with is bringing thunderstorms into the Valley of the Sun around Phoenix. So even though we do have showers and thunderstorms across northern Arizona, and we don't have any painted into the Phoenix area with either model, but I do believe that there is a significant threat for an isolated thunderstorm in the Phoenix metro area as we arrive on Monday evening. And the fun thing about thunderstorms in Phoenix is they tend to kick up a lot of dust, so don't be surprised if you're going to have to brush off some mud off the car as we get going on Tuesday. It's thunderstorms like this that bring about the sandstorms and whatnot, especially well, that's not entirely true. I mean, they do bring out the thunderstorms. I was going to say it's been dry in Phoenix, but it actually hasn't. Lately, it's been pretty stormy out west, save for the southern plains. In the west coast, the Pineapple Express is helping to alleviate the drought in California, and it continues to do that as we head towards summer. So maybe an isolated thunderstorm, perhaps a pretty heavy downdraft, as some thunderstorms in Phoenix are known to give off. But just be aware that even though the model doesn't directly have anything on top of the city of Phoenix, it's one of those things that if you look at the weather long enough, you recognize a pattern when you see it. So let's monitor that trough at the upper levels. Overnight, it's going to be shifting into Arizona, which means it's going to be drying conditions over California. There's going to be a few showers, leftover showers over the Four Corners. We'll depart in some rain, but you can see we're at the very back edge of it, and it's going to dry out pretty quickly as we head to the west. Let's take a look at our route to see where we're going. And we'll zoom in here. This is awesome video, I'm sure. So the Ehrenberg Blythe area is where we're going to cross into California, but we're probably going to get out of the rain like right around here. There's not a really good town I was hoping to mention for you. So we'll get out of the rain and head towards the Los Angeles area, which obviously provides issues of its own. You don't need bad weather to get stuck there for a while. But through most of the morning and afternoon, you're going to be good. There's the GFS is indicating there's a chance of some precip along the Nevada border, but with a stout westerly flow with this big monster in the Gulf of Alaska, that's more than likely going to be mountain snow in the Sierras, and not really an issue for the Central Valley that we'll be driving in. So by the time we reach Northern California, we'll have freshly rained, which should help green everything up considerably. Not that it's not usually green, but it's going to be pretty pleasant and might be a little clammy given all the precip they've seen and continued flow off the ocean. But at least it won't be raining And it's kind of interesting to think that the best chance for a good thunderstorm that we'll have on our entire trip is in the middle of the desert. But that's just how it's going to play out. It looks like a decent drive, interesting drive. I like when you drive through those big cities, and that's what we're going to have on this trip from Houston to Napa, California. I hope you liked it. If you would like a road trip forecasted for yourself or just any other kind of forecast, you can email us at victoriawx.com and just let us know what kind of forecast you would get, and we'll give you a quote and a quick forecast as soon as we get your email. So thank you again for watching this video and visiting victoriaweather.com. Again, I'm meteorologist Ryan Henning.